Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. The IMF has exposed that the Zimbabwe government has been underreporting of foreign and local debt. This is the equivalent not of the child being caught with his hand in the cookie jar. This is the equivalent of the father, ravenous father, with a pot belly, breastfeeding, while a child with kwashiorkor looks on. The Zanu PF government has been absolutely irresponsible. Zimbabwe is a failed state because the country has had the misfortune of finding itself stuck with a corrupt, incompetent, and tyrannical regime. That has been our problem. And it is interesting to note here that the IMF have mentioned 3 areas in which there's got to be meaningful reform in Zimbabwe. And these 3 areas are the economy, and what they called political governance, and the land reform issues. And they said there's not been any progress in any of those 3 areas. I would argue here that there will be no meaningful progress in any of the 2 areas, the economy and land reform, until we have the issue of political governance resolved. We've got to look at what Zanu PF has been spending money. All this money the regime has been borrowing right, center, and left, and failing to declare how much they've borrowed. It's all gone in things like cars, particularly cars. Looks like the Zanu PF ruling elite have a passion for Porsche cars. It's absolutely mind-blowing how much money this regime has spent on cars. We've mentioned this one, the one we're showing the picture there, is some of the 102 cars Mnangagwa gave to army officials. The balance is coming, and altogether 700 of these cars will be given to the army officials. The week before, he was distributing his Women's League, and then Zanu PF Central Committee members, and we all know how generous he has been with all the other key players in Zimbabwe's economy. We have spent millions of dollars on cars.
Good morning, members. South Africa has received the money, and they said that they want to start off with payments for the 1 million to Better Brands, which is what we had signed the contract for. Then after the holiday, we've been able to engage them because we had agreed to top 7 days. Marisa zovanetsa nemoney laundering act kuti vaitenge as if vari kumhanya stere kuda kubudisa mari. Saka for Easter purposes ndaisa pressure kuti ashama tisire 1 million edu at least timbotanga kumhanya. So as agreed, Scott otora 350, inini 150, Mike 150, Mpofu 150, then Momzo yatoapa 100, DG toapa 100 to make a total of 1 million and 150 by 4.
There is one of Mnangagwa's allies, Whitnell Chifayo. He doesn't spend his looted wealth on ordinary cars. He likes the Rolls Royces, the BMWs, Mercedes Benz, the limousines. So where are we getting all this money from? And more interestingly, all this money is being poured into these things is not generating any wealth. It's being used at the expense of looking after the nation's needs, making sure we've got education, health care, we've got running water, electricity, etc., etc. Things important for the economic growth. Indeed, they are being ignored. As I said, there will be no meaningful change in Zimbabwe on the economic front and land reform front until we address the problem, the curse of rigged elections. This remains at the core of our problem as a nation. Zimbabwe has had this problem for decades. Indeed, ever since our independence, Zimbabwe has never had free, fair, and credible elections. By the late 1990s, the people of Zimbabwe realized that Zanu PF was denying them a meaningful say in the governance of the country. And they decided, and wisely too, that they would risk everything to elect opposition whose main task would be to implement the democratic reforms. Because by then the country realized Zanu PF will never reform itself out of power. The MDC was launched in 1999, promising to implement the democratic changes the nation was dying for. As the party name implies, the movement for democratic change. And it's now 25 years down the line. As we know, in 2023, Mnangagwa blatantly rigged those elections to stay in power. So the question is going to be asked, why has MDC Triple C failed to implement even one token meaningful reform in all these years, 25 years? The answer is very simple. Robert Mugabe bribed the MDC leadership with the trappings of high office. And they forgot about the reforms. That is the truth. That is the reality that we have got to admit. We have been slow in realizing what has been going on here. When MDC leaders failed to implement even one token reform during the GNU, some people asked, why was MDC failing to implement reforms? And the Zanu PF cronies boasted that when MDC was in the MDC leaders have learned to enjoy the benefits of the gravy train. They're never going to rock the boat. We cannot deny that those people were right. They did. They were enjoying the benefits of the GNU, of being on the gravy train. They forgot about the reforms. And this is why, even now, Zanu PF continues to rig the elections. So to come back to the issue that the IMF has raised here, the lack of progress on political governance. The reason for it is very simple. We have failed to make progress for three main reasons. Number one, Zanu PF will never reform itself out of office. And so we went to Plan B. And Plan B was that the opposition would implement those reforms necessary to end the Zanu PF dictatorship. They failed to do so because Mugabe bribed them. And ever since the GNU debacle, the MDC Triple C leaders have accepted participating in flawed elections and retain for a few gravy train seats. MDC leaders have become nothing more than jackals at a lion's kill, content with the scraps. And meanwhile, they pretend to the people that they are going to deliver the changes that the nation wants. I've said on this platform, and I'll say it again, Chamisa lied to the people of Zimbabwe that he had plugged the vote rigging loopholes when he knew he had not plugged any loopholes, when he knew Zanu PF was rigging the elections, and when he knew that by participating, by conning people to participate, he was giving Zanu PF legitimacy. And all for the reward of a few gravy train seats. So Plan B has failed. in any failed political system, it is the people who have got to bring about change. Unfortunately, the people of Zimbabwe have been ignorant, naive, and gullible. It is disappointing that 25 years since they've been risking everything to elect the opposition, the people of Zimbabwe, the majority of them, the penny is still to drop that the MDC CCC leaders have failed to implement even one token reform in 25 years. It is the people who have got to bring about change. The people themselves have failed to realize that the MDC CCC leaders have been running with the povo hair and hunting with the Zanu PF hounds. The question then is, how long are you going to allow this madness to continue? Because it is madness. And as long as the people allow it to continue, it will continue. Make no mistake about it. We really have ourselves to blame for what is happening here. The IMF is only exposing something that we already know. Nothing will change in Zimbabwe until we cure ourselves of the curse of rigged elections. That is the truth. The sad reality is we, the people, have that key, have that cure. If we stop being so ignorant, naive, and gullible, we can end the Zanu PF dictatorship. It's up to us. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.